We can wait a couple minutes
Yeah,
if you
let's
want
wait.
for Walt. I just wanted
Shows
to
up.
hit the live stream button back there. This iPad never seems to be working anymore, it's always loading and loading and loading, so I have to go back to the back room and hit that one.
Are we streaming now?
Yeah, so we are streaming now. Were you in the meeting earlier, Brendan? That was in here?
No.
I bet you thought that was really fun. I bet you were the one that did it. Yeah, you were.
Yeah.
Well, but it had happened to me a couple times too, so.
That's what you get for being away.
That's right. And it was fair because you can always do, well, team meetings. But I was like, well, he probably could be here, but he's having fun doing that, so.
Good.
I think John's he's out on Cape Cod.
Is that where you went to?
He goes, he and Gene and I think whole family go out every year. They take a.
I wonder if they get swallowed by the whale out of Provincetown.
Wow, what was going on with this?
So they got swallowed and then spit up by a whale. They were diving in Provincetown.
Wow. By an alien spaceship.
Probably. I think so. Yeah. We'll give him a couple more minutes.
That's Steve DeJolly holding court with you guys now, huh?
Fridays. He's been in on Friday. It's the only day he showed up.
Card and he's sticking.
Is Steve retired?
Yep. Yep.
You doing any consulting or is he?
He's been down there 3 Fridays. I don't know.
I like Steve. All his brothers are great guys.
He's the only one I know.
Dan was a year ahead of us in
Yeah.
high school.
Oh.
And Brian, I think Brian's younger than Steve.
How many are there?
It's at least 3
What's his
brothers
dad's
and a
name,
sister.
Dan? What's his dad's name?
Rich Pachali, who was the
Rich. Oh,
principal
yeah,
of
yeah,
Ontario.
What was his sister's name? She married, was she?
She married Brad Wimmer. They're in their old house on Elm Street, just down.
Greg, you probably can't see too well, all of us in the commission chambers, but we have a new assistant planner sitting next to me, and his name is Alec, so.
How you doing, Greg?
Hi, Alec. Is it Alec or Alex?
Alec with a C.
Got it. Nice
Yep.
to meet you, Alec.
Nice to meet you.
I'll be at the next one live, so
Okay.
looking forward to having my first live meeting. I was hoping to be at this one, but work actually got in the way.
Yeah, take advantage while you can.
You look pretty tan. I think you were at the beach.
Just good
Just
luck.
down in New Orleans for a while. I had to be down there for work, so took advantage and got some sun in the 95-degree humid heat.
Too hot.
Yeah, and thick.
Okay, well, it
Yeah.
doesn't look like Mr. Matthews is going to show up. My name is Dan Delahunt, and this is the 4:35. It's 4:35 on June 17th. This is the BZA Board of Zoning Appeals. And I'd like to call this meeting to order. And the first thing we need to do is to review the minutes of May 20th meeting. Do we have any motions?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we need to poll the commission
I
individually?
don't think for that.
No.
Aye. Okay, that is approved. Now, this is an adjudication hearing, and if anybody is interested in speaking to anything on the agenda, you would have to raise your right hand and swear to tell the truth. Anybody, all 3? Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God? I do?
I do.
All right, you're all sworn in. So the first thing on the agenda It is 208 and 214 Perry Street, a variance to allow construction of a 6-foot fence in the front and side yards. The code only permits up to 4 feet in the side yards and 3 feet in the front yards. And Alec, are you going to take this on here?
That's correct.
All right, man, thank you.
Tom, are you able to pull up that presentation or go to the next slide for me, please? So as was just mentioned, it's for a variance to allow a 6-foot fence in a front and side yard, which allows for 3 and 4 feet. This site's in a RF2 two-family residential zoning district. As you can see from here, the surroundings are mostly RF2, DBD, which is downtown business, then RMF, which is multifamily residential in the brown. Next slide, please. Here's an aerial shot of the site and then what it currently looks like today. No fencing and wide open. So the applicant stated the main reason they want this fence and this variance is for safety reasons. So that was considered during this process. As a staff, we believe that visual consistency in a welcoming residential atmosphere is important and that the 6-foot would impede on both of those. And because of that, we're not able to give a recommendation for the variance on this site.
Thank you, Alec. Who's here to speak on behalf? Would you like to come up into the podium and, or can you, I guess you probably, can they come up
Yep,
to
you
the
can come up
microphone?
right
Yeah,
here.
thank you. And give us your name and your address, please.
My name is Ziad Lalabidi, and I'm the owner of those buildings. First of all, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
May I approach?
Sure.
I'm not sure if Mr. Horstman is in here.
He's on,
He's on
Virtually.
virtual.
yeah.
Okay. Well, this is an email that I actually sent to him, and it might kind of explain a little bit here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you.
We might need to read this for Greg. We might need to read this for Greg.
Kristen, you want to read it so that Greg
Sure.
knows what's going on?
So the property owner says he's been dealing with a lot of issues with this property since I took over the buildings. Are open in the front and the back, and it's an invitation to all proper and non-proper acting individuals, to say the least, to walk through or run away from some kind of improper act, not get into details. I am afraid to say, sir, that the good and decent people in those buildings need to feel safe and secure walking in the courtyard at night without having to deal with a bunch of strangers who are crossing through, or an individual who is possibly trying to market some unregulated something. I would really appreciate it if the city would reconsider for the installation of the fence I proposed. I am sure it's for the benefit of everybody.
Thanks for reading that for me.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And do you have a few more comments?
I'm sorry, I
A
missed that.
few more comments?
Basically, I guess in a very short way, this is what describes what's going on in there. There's a lot of activities. Some of those activities might be suspicious. And just for the story in here, I'm standing yesterday in one of the units, and I have bicyclists passing through. And I was planning on filming. By the time I got my phone, they were gone. It's just too open. And you have a lot of strangers going back and forth, and you just don't know exactly what's going on. And you see some gathering, and it just doesn't look really good.
So the bicyclists, they don't live there, they were just kind
No.
of passing, using it for a
No,
shortcut?
I got to know most people, actually all people who live in there. And a lot of times you see strangers just going back and forth. And it seems like it used to be I don't want to say abandoned, but it seems like nobody cared what's going on in there. So I think what we do in here is if we put the fence in here, it will create that mental separation between the street and this private area. And that's exactly what we need.
How long have you owned it?
About 3 months.
3 months.
4 months, yeah.
And you've looked into other fencing as far as trying to keep within the code?
I've been in this business for a long time, and it really works. We already installed some cameras in there. The fence actually works. It does a lot. People don't want to open that gate and get in there. It's actually the mental thing in there. This is a private area. I should not just open and get in there unless I'm going to see somebody. And obviously, it just puts somebody under some kind of thinking that, you know what, if I have no business in there, I shouldn't be there. And that's exactly the objective. We don't want just strangers. I hear a lot of tenants, oh, we have people passing, you know. There are a lot of strangers going back and forth. And definitely my job is to make sure that I'm protecting and taking care of my tenants in there.
Mr. Peugeot or Dr. Siemens, comments, questions?
What fencing is there currently on the property, on the back or
None.
sides?
None.
I guess the question I have is, we're talking height here, correct?
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
A variance for height, and it seems like the code required height could solve all the problems that I've heard talked about and that were referenced in that email. So I guess I have a little bit of concern about why it needs to go up 2 or 3 extra feet, because it seems like, you know, a 3 or 4 foot fence would do that same sort of separation between street and private property and accomplish that goal.
I think the fact that I do agree in a lot of ways, actually, but my experience in this is the fact that I cannot see what's behind this. It kind of gives an extra protection. Because if you can't see what's behind it, chances are you're not going to open that gate and get in there. You never know if there's somebody standing in there. If you could see it, it's easier for somebody to just jump over the fence or open the gate and get in there. So that's the idea.
Thanks.
I understand your plight. I get it. But I also think that we're going to start looking like a walled compound, and that's not the inviting look that we want to have in the city of Sandusky for that sort of thing. I'd be interested in what the rest of the board would think about possibly permitting a 4-foot fence in the front, which would still be able to see over. I think it would be, a 6-foot fence would really be impeding to the people on the first floor in the front of that front apartment. I think looking at whatever type of fence there, and obviously I think you're doing a privacy fence sort of thing. I'd just like to know what the other board members' thoughts would be towards that end.
If I may just make a comment on this, I assure you that everybody in the buildings right now, in both buildings, when I mentioned that I'm looking into a possibility of installing fence, everybody was beautiful. This is great. And they all know that it's a 6-foot fence. Obviously, because of what they suffered in the past, there are a lot of good people in there. And for what's been happening in there, everybody's happy and everybody's like, okay, good. As a matter of fact, for the past couple of months, everybody's asking me, okay, when are you going to put the fence? People are looking forward to see that fence.
Mr. Mr. Peugeot?
That makes sense, and I completely understand that. To answer the prior question, I would be comfortable with 4 feet all around, but I guess I did have a question about the type of fence as well. It does sound like it's going to be a privacy fence that's, where every board touches each other and you cannot see through it. And it's not going to be an open type fencing that you see in a lot of places. But can you comment on that as well?
Yes, sure. You're absolutely right. It's a privacy fence, and it's called board on board, actually, where you cannot see, you're not supposed to see through it. And that's exactly what it's going to be. It's a wooden fence, and it's going to be painted white to make it look a lot better, not just plain.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the fence is going to be around the entire, how do you deal with that alley in the back? Is it going to be up tight against the building there in the back? Is that?
There's a parking lot for the buildings in the back. So the parking lot, we are going to fence part of it, but obviously the driveway will be open. There's a partial fence in between the building with gate, and there will be fence on each side of each building, again, to prevent people, because there's an alley in the back, and that has a lot of activities.
Right. Do you own that parking area in the back?
Yes, I do.
I know you don't own the alley, but I mean, do you own the parking area
Yes,
in the
I do.
back there?
Yes.
Okay. So you own on the other side of that alley?
The back parking lot, yes.
Okay, but that's not getting fenced.
That doesn't need a fence, actually, because it's got one house on one side, it's got another house on the other side, so it does not need it.
My own comments, I can't see my way past the height of that fence in the front. I just think that it would be too obtrusive for the city. They're not 6-foot fences around the city in the front yards. So I would be against the 6-foot fence, but I would be amenable possibly to the 4-foot fence if the other board members might feel the same.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is Tom. I just wanted to make a very quick comment from staff's perspective. I think may have probably changed staff's recommendation if it were a different proposal, but just looking at the image is what reminded me of this, and wondering if also the ability to bring the fence line back in line with the buildings, because I think a 2-foot variance for a side yard fence on the side of the building versus a 3-foot variance from the front yard would have been, I think, different in staff's perspective for making recommendations. So that'd be something I just wanted to possibly bring up for discussion, basically to mirror what's on the back end of the parcel, and whether that could be something that could be done.
I hate to ask you could you just kind of repeat some of it? I kind of
There's a little
Sorry.
fuzzy. Little fuzzy.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I'm going to be the one that
I
has
was
to
trying to
ask.
just think out loud. So essentially bringing the fencing that's in the front here, essentially matching what's in the back along the side yards with 6-foot fencing. That would only be a 2-foot variance for a side yard fence as opposed to the front yard fence variance. So like basically fencing here, here, and here, I think would have been a less substantial variance and may have, changed staff's recommendation a little bit. So that was just another point of discussion to bring up to see if that would be something the applicant.
So
would
your
do.
recommendation is 6 foot along the sides and the back? Is that what you said? I'm sorry.
And then closing off the gaps between,
So
basically running the fence at the building line.
so I think straight across here and then back. Rather
There's
than
the
having
front.
this, and this the front.
This is front,
Yeah, here's
right?
parking lot. So
Right.
we're bringing it straight across, I think.
Instead of popping it all the way out there.
Right.
There's not that, Tom, there's not a lot of room between the edge of the building and the sidewalk area, is there? Is there that much? I guess there is.
It's a significant front yard. My only comment to bring that up is that, that staff's primary concern is what was voiced, by members of this commission, that the obtrusiveness of a 6 foot in the front yard, whereas the significance of that would be significantly lower in the side yard.
If I may answer that question, actually, sir, there's probably like 30 feet. I'm gonna guess at least 25, maybe 30
From the
feet.
front of the building to the sidewalk?
To the building.
Commission, what's your pleasure?
Like I said, I understand your plight. However, I think that maybe some compromise could be reached to not make it feel as much of a compound, maybe moving the fence to a position as Mr. Horstman suggested. I believe this is what you were saying, Tom, was flush with the front of the building, parallel to the street, across to the side property line?
That's what I said, yeah, you're correct.
And what would be your suggestion of fence height there? 6?
I think from staff's perspective, I think we would have been more open to a supportive, voicing support for the variance from staff's perspective, because it's a less substantial variance than the front yard. So we would have, 6 foot would have been a different situation there. So I just bring that up for discussion purposes.
Thank you.
Would the residents be comfortable with that?
Yeah, just to make it straight across, but you can still see the buildings.
Right.
With the fence?
And it gives you the privacy.
Yeah, up against the building, and I'm thinking like it,
It's 6 foot.
you ideally, the residents want to play inside the fence. If there's seats there, they want to, kick a ball around inside the fence. And this would, I guess, force some of that play to be outside of the fence, between the fence and the street, closer to the sidewalk. And so I guess I had a residential concern from the tenants there. Will they be disappointed that the fence doesn't allow them to have their kids play in a fenced-in yard if they want to do?
Actually, the tenant is really very happy to have that fence. They want that fence. The tenants are, as I mentioned, the fact that they have no privacy in there. And I'm creating actually also a seating area with possible picnic tables in that area just for the tenant. Everybody's happy actually to have that fence. They're looking forward to having it actually. I had a couple of comments actually a couple of weeks ago from different people like, when are you going to put that fence? And a lot of people don't understand the process that we have to go through. They're thinking that I'm the one who's holding it. Right. Yeah.
Little did they know, huh?
Well, we have a few older ladies in there, and in general, I guess what I want to say is, in general, people are very happy to fence that area. Just give it a little privacy in there where they could go and sit in the courtyard, and they will have some privacy and safety.
I would agree. My personal feeling is I would agree with you other than the height of the fence. I'm not particularly excited about having a 6-foot fence in between or abutting the buildings. I think it would be nice to include your property in the front of the buildings, but I can't see my way making that fence height 6 feet. So I know we've got, I guess, a couple things on the table, and you don't have a lot of board members here to get this thing done tonight unless we all vote in unison. I think you heard the discussion before. We're a little shy in the membership tonight. So Mr. Peugeot or Dr. Siemens, do you have any idea what we might want to do here?
Would it work if it's 5 feet? I mean, if we can't do 6, would it work if we do 5 instead?
My own personal opinion, I just think that that's just getting pretty high up there.
From 3 to 6, 3 to 5, I think the compromise that I'd be willing to make would be 4 on the sides and the front. I would vote in favor of that and would be willing to make a motion to that end. So
So you're saying
I'll make a
4 in
motion.
the front?
4 in the front and, which would be, where do we determine side yard begins, front yard ends?
The edge of the buildings, excuse me, edge of the
Edge of
buildings.
buildings.
Yeah.
So flush with the building
Yes, correct.
would be where the 4 is.
Now, before we get this motion, Dr. Siemens, I think, this is going to be kind of up to you too. I think we have a couple of things we might be able to do here. Obviously, just turn it down, and I don't think that you want it, and we really don't want to do that. Secondly, go with see if we get a second on the motion, as Dr. Siemens threw out. Or third, I guess we could probably table it and get more, I think maybe next month you have more members and you might get some more or differing opinions, somebody that might agree with you. So I guess there's a motion and on the floor, I don't know if it's proper to kind of ask
If there's a second.
if there's, I guess.
Is it a motion to table?
There's a motion on the table.
I motion to allow a variance of 4 feet in the
Oh, to
front
amend,
yard.
okay. Okay.
And then what on the side?
It wouldn't need a variance for that if it would be 4.
Do we
I
have-
don't really have a problem with it 6 on the side. I guess I'd allow a variance to 6 on the side from 4 and 4 in the front from 3.
Do we have a?
I would agree with that.
What's that?
I would second that, what was just said. If there is an interest in doing a front yard fence, I would agree with an extra foot variance there, and then in 6 on the side, but would not want to, I wouldn't want a 6-foot fence out front. I think for all the reasons that were mentioned, I think that's not the right thing to do.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. I guess, Kristen, it's time to poll the commission.
Okay, Mr. Delahunt,
Yes.
Dr. Siemens,
Yes.
Mr. Peugeot,
Yes.
The change has been granted. And
Not as presented.
Not as presented. Right, the change, right. And thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you for your time.
Trying to do something with that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next thing on the agenda is 715 Jordan Drive, a variance to allow construction of an attached garage with a 3-foot side yard setback. The combination side yard setback of both sides would be 9 feet, whereas the code requires 15 feet. Al?
All righty, next slide, please. So the site is currently zoned R175, which is single-family residential. The surrounding zoning matches that and also has residential suburban to the west side. Let's see here, the applicant wishes to build a new car attached garage on the north side of the home. Could you, on the right, yeah, there it is. On the right there, they at one point had a detached 2-car garage that needed to be torn down due to poor structural integrity. So the applicant wishes to replace what they once had with a single-car garage attached to the house. It's the same 3-foot setback as the detached was, but as mentioned, it doesn't meet the 15-foot combined requirements. That being said, we don't feel the proposed garage would substantially alter the character of the neighborhood nor have a negative impact on adjoining properties, and for that reason, we would recommend granting the variance.
Thank you. Comments or questions? I'm sorry. Would you like to speak to the issue?
We'd just like to hear your comments first.
Any comments from Dr.
I
Seaman?
don't think I quite, from the drawing picture where how that garage is gonna be situated.
And Mr. Siemens, what's your question?
I just, from this drawing, I'm not quite, this is just a schematic of the actual garage. I just wondered if there was a drawing of the property and the orientation of the proposed garage on the lot. Do we have?
If you were to bring the picture back up that showed the picture
Dr.
in front of the
Siemens,
house.
this is Tom. I'm gonna work on pulling that specific drawing up and sharing it. So just give me one moment to get that.
Well, while you're doing that, Tom, is there also a picture of what it used to look like before the two-car garage was torn down?
I can describe it. If you bring that picture up, as you see my son's car in the driveway.
Right.
Directly behind the driveway and on the right-hand side of the driveway was the two-car garage that's set back approximately, I'm saying about 10 feet from the back corner of the house. And the two-car garage basically only had clear access for one car to get in, and you had to angle the second car into the garage if you wanted to get in there. The garage was dilapidated. In the picture that you see there, you can see where the garage stood in the back corner of the property, not quite to the back property line. It was about 10 feet from the back property line to the back side of that 24 by 24 garage. As was mentioned, the garage was in horrible shape. We were hoping that a good wind didn't blow it down and damage the property because it's only on a 3-foot setback at that point from that property line. When we made the drawings and planned for this, we made the naive assumption that since there was a 3-foot setback originally with the original garage, that there wouldn't be a problem with the 3-foot setback with the new garage. And so when we found out that there had to be these additional setbacks for this construction, we were kind of taken by surprise a little bit. But this is going to, in addition to the new garage, the house is going to be sided with new vinyl siding. And right now it's got aluminum siding with some fake block work on front. And Jeff, my son, is doing a lot of work on the house on the interior as well. So I mean, it's a pretty substantial project what he's doing.
Mr. Peugeot,
Thanks.
do you have any questions? Mr. Peugeot?
No, that answered my question. Thank you.
Okay.
Doctor?
I'd make a motion to approve this variance.
Second,
Would you pull the commission, please?
Mr. Delahunt?
Yes.
Dr. Siemens?
Yes.
Mr. Peugeot?
yes.
It has been granted.
Thank you very much.
So you weren't naive at all.
We should have gone first. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Night.
Do we have anything else?
Nope, I don't think
Do we have
so.
anything for next month yet?
I can't recall off the top of my head if we got anything for next month. Do you remember, Tom or Alec?
I don't recall.
I don't believe we have.
I don't think we did, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Class dismissed.
See you next month in person.
Yes.
Person.
Great.